All right, applause. All right. We are going to begin here in verse 33. I have 12 points, and one of them, I have no idea what I meant by the point, so we might skip that. If you end up with 11, it's because I can't seem to figure out what I even put down here. It is Mark chapter 9, verses 33 through 37, paragraph marking in verse 33, paragraph marking in verse 38. I hope this morning, I prep these messages for reasons. I don't have reasons maybe ahead of time to select verses. It just, that's where I start, and then it ends up, and then I have reasons after I prep the message. And so I hope you learned something today. But the thing you want to do after you learn something, what do you want to do with it?
Sure.
No, put it to practice. That you practice what was preached and all. All right, who said, I know, we all know who said it. What was Cassius Clay? Muhammad Ali, for anybody that's offended. What was one of his greatest sayings? Well, that's a good one, Joe. I didn't think that. But no, his was, I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. But yeah, he float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Yeah, rope a dope is another. What are some of the others? Those are the only three I can think of right now. But that's our title tonight. I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. But it's not just that he said I'm the greatest, but it's the way he said it. Reigning from the heavyweight champion, reigning from Louisville, Kentucky. Anybody here been to Louisville, Kentucky?
Yes.
You been to Louisville?
Yeah. They call
Passing through? Okay, is that like going to the farm or? No, this is beyond the farm.
Like,
It's Louisville. Huh? Yeah, Louisville, but right. But when you go to the farm, you don't go through. It's not near the farm. Oh, it's south of the farm. It's further out. It's further out. Oh, really? Into Louisville. Okay. We went there to get Mrs. She was on, that street. Mrs. Jamieson's son lived there. We made that trip in a day. We drove down there, picked him up, and drove back. That's a haul. And back in one day.
1,000 miles.
It was a long ride, but we got her picked and him picked up. But I'm the greatest. The world makes its servants great, but Jesus makes his servants little. Could you guess why, no conspiracy theories, why Bloomberg, $60 billion, can you imagine that? Why is it he's so anti-Trump? If it's all about what? And then how does it affect his money? No, I think it does. That's why he's so anti-Trump. Now, I could be wrong. It's because Trump has made new trade deals with China, and because of that, he has messed with the apple cart. And so he's not getting the money he normally would get, because all of his business dealings are coming through China. Now, that's my assumption, is that's why so many people are against him. It's messing with the money. It's messing with it, and the Republicans the same way, because their money's getting, you can touch anything, but if you want to mess with God, don't touch the apple of his eye, right? But if you mess with the world, you're touching the money. Yes?
Plus, Bloomberg has Bloomberg News Service, which is a business news service like the Wall Street Journal.
Oh, he does have that, yeah.
Yeah. So
But I thought I heard...
Big news and everything else, that's probably...
I thought I heard on the news it's because of the China deal. I heard that someplace. because of, he's messing with China in those dealings and bringing work back here, is Bloomberg is losing a lot of money that way. I mean, if you had 60 billion, if you lose $1 billion or $2 billion, what do you care? But apparently people do.
Well, we spent, what, $500 million in political ads, and he's out of the...
I know, and he's out of the race. Yeah. How much is enough? Just a little more. Yeah. So, and when we look at this, and he came to Capernaum, and being in the house, he asked them, what was it that ye were disputing among yourselves by the way? Now, does Jesus know what they were disputing? Obviously, he knows. But they held their peace. For by the way, they had disputed amongst themselves who should be the greatest. Now, that's how I came up with the title. Father, bless now the preaching, and that you would make it to be fruitful in our lives now. In Christ's name I pray, amen. Does Starla have another baby? There's a baby up there. Whose baby is that? Oh, it's Will. William's up there with her. Okay. Because she had 3 other kids.
What's your scripture, Pastor?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mark chapter 9, verses 33 through 37. We have all C words here today. They all begin with C-O-N. In our first one, if you're going to have a dispute about who's going to be the greatest, you want to be, what's our first point? You want to be the one who's in what? I'm the greatest. Say it. Who said that? Luke or Benji? Go, say it out loud, baby. It's the controlling. Who is in control? And that is a big issue in the lost world and in the church. And so why does he bring it up here with church people and in the Bible? Is because that is an issue. That who is going to be the one in control? And those kind of things as far as leadership and in control, it does spell out some things in the Bible. Who's the head of the household? The husband. Who's the head of the husband? Christ. Who's the then? The husband is the head of the household, and specifically who? If he's the head of the household, the next in line. The missus. And then after that, the kiddies follow suit. And that's kind of like the thrust of it. Who's in charge of the church?
Pastor.
You want to go that far? All right, who's in charge of the pastor?
Christ.
Christ. And really, Christ is the head of the church. So we'll discredit me there. You know, you could argue beyond that. But I don't think, he who is least will be the servant of all. Yes, sir. All right. So it begins with the controlling. And folks, people just want to be in control. I've heard it said, and it seemed like I heard it from preaching, the moment you have to say, I'm the pastor, is you're anything but. Is the moment you have to say that I'm the leader and I'm the boss, you lose a lot of credibility.
You lost your control.
It ought to be automatically understood. Automatically should be understood what that is. And so the controlling of people is a very important thing. And he came to Capernaum, and being in the house. All right. What would be the house? We're going to, and don't think of a C-O-N word for that. What's the house? We could think of your personal house, where you sleep.
Your abode.
Yeah, where are you right now?
Your dwelling place.
You personally, where are you? You as a person.
I'm in La La Land.
You're in La La Land right now? I hope.
I'll confess before
Listen,
somebody
I
else
don't want
says
to
it.
put you in La La Land. Not that you're sleepy, but to confuse you. Your house is you. And if Jesus is in the house,
He's in your heart.
then he's speaking, give me the CON word for that.
Conscience.
Yes, sir, you got number 2.
He's been on my
You-
conscience every
You see,
time.
when you slow down, I used to struggle with this, is I'd have a grouping of verses, and I would mainly try to stick to the paragraph markings, and I have these groupings, and I can't come up with an outline, and I don't necessarily outline by letter. To outline it, use any words in there to get the flow of what's going on. Man, it does just like anything else. It takes practice, but it's something that can be learned. That's something that can be learned. I would assume people that present themselves in business do that. There's got to be a flow to this meeting. But he's going to preach to the conscience. He's in the house, and he's going to talk to the conscience. There are those that want to be in control. And Christ is in the house, and he is going to speak to the conscience. He's in the house. So in verse 33, what was it that you disputed among yourselves by the way? And so he did, what did he do there? Give me a CON word there that he did. Hey, what were you guys doing?
Confronted him.
That's right. Boy, see how you, see, if you could actually make a book and write down outlines. Preachers do publish their outlines. Now, I don't know if they do that anymore because, man, no one's writing anymore. It's all online. But there is a time for confronting. Now, this morning in the sermon, I'd like to think I confronted 3 or 4 things head on. And I think you're smart enough to get it, of what that confronting was. But there has got to be, sometimes, there must be a confronting. That people need to be confronted. There is the confrontation. What was it that you disputed among yourselves by the way? By the way. And so the disputation, ye disputed, there was a, when there's a dispute, there's what? There's friction. A CON word for that. Oh, conflict is a good one. I skipped that one. I write down a whole ton of them. Then as I run through them, I say, well, I think I got a better word than conflict. That's a good one, though. The contention. So is that our 4th or 5th one? I don't know. It's one of them in there. 4th one. 4 of them. See, you can come up with 4 of them out of one verse. There was contention there. Wouldn't you like to end the contention in your life?
No way.
Oh, you love contention.
I don't like contention. I always lost.
Oh, wouldn't you like to end it?
Yeah.
End contention.
Wouldn't that be accepting as confrontation?
No, you're confronted about something. And you're confronted about them having contention amongst themselves. You guys, what was it you were fighting about? He confronted them about their contending one with the other, fighting with each other. It's, I don't really have a problem with my grandsons or grandchildren. I just don't. Others may have a problem or not. If there is a problem, I just sit down next to them and it all kind of ends. Contention ends. Because if the contention doesn't end, now I know that Noah's not here. If the contention doesn't end, fighting amongst yourself, what's going to happen? Say it. What would you say?
Sad.
Yeah, why would you be sad? Because you're going to contend with Grandpa. I'm going to stop the contention. So there usually isn't any contention if I'm about. Everybody seems well behaved. And, I don't know, did I ever do a display to bring that about? Usually you only have to have one incident and everybody stops. But there was contention. Is that these men, full-grown men, were contending one with another as to who would be the greatest. All of that needs to end. It needs to stop. The contention. Verse 34, but they held their peace. For by the way, they had disputed amongst themselves who should be the greatest. They held their peace. So give me a C word of what they were trying to do. Pardon? Contain. That's close. They were trying to hide it. The concealment. They didn't say a word. We've been had. And so men do what men always do. When they sin, they try to cover up their tracks. They try to erase the footprints. They try to erase the tape. You know, with this day and age of tapes and cameras and body cameras and what else is out? Cell phone records.
All the texts are on recorded.
I don't know how anybody in their right mind continues on with that. Knowing that if you muff up, you're going to be had, man. You just muff up one time. They're going to dig in there and you say, well, the best and the brightest, the government. No, they got some smart people in there, the cops. And there's going to be one smart cop in there that's going to know what to do. And they're going to find out every nook and cranny. And notice, and lo and behold, the Lord knows every nook and cranny. And so they try to cover it up. Try to cover it up. So who tried to cover it up from when you think about the very first cover-up? Who was the very first cover-up?
Uh-oh.
Adam. Yeah, Adam hid himself. Oh my, oh, this is all on tape. So there's this concealment. Men want to, when we say men, you know I mean men and women. They cover up their sins, and they literally think they're going to get away with it. That they're actually going to get away with it.
You think they're able to get away with it.
And they're able to get away with it. And man, and especially with this day and age of electronics, you're going to be had. I mean, I don't know how people continue in that. I'm just glad I never, even though I never got started in it, I think to myself, they'll still have me online someplace doing something. I don't know what they'll come up with something to get those that aren't even on it, you know. The concealment, they try to cover it up. And you could say, well, these men probably had a little argument every day. Every day. Wouldn't you like to, we used to try to go through, with 7 kids, how often do you think there would be a spanking in the house? How often? How many times a day?
Once a day, all day long.
Every day, all day long. Who sang that one? And there's a song for that. There's a song for everything. All day long. Yeah, he's just trying to forget it all. Once a day, every day, all day long. So this spanking, we then had a goal. We had a goal. Can we make it all day long without what? Without spanking any of them. Can we make it through the whole day? And we did. We eventually got to the point where we got through the whole day without spanking him.
Did they try to bribe the judge?
No, they never did. No, they didn't do that. But they held their peace. For by the way, they had disputed among themselves who should be the greatest. So there's this concealment. And this is the point I don't know why I had in here. Number 6 is the condemnation. And maybe it's because of their conscience. Their conscience condemned themselves. That they had this guilty conscience. We will skip over that one, but that's what, just so you have it. Number 7, verse 35. But and he sat down and called the 12 and saith unto them, if any man, the key word here is if any man desire to be first, the same shall be last of all and servant of all. The if, the C word for that. This whole thing, if this is going to work, is going to be what? It's all conditional, folks. This whole thing is conditional. He's not going to force anybody into this. If any man desire to be first, it's conditional on your desire to be first, really first. The same shall be last of all and servant of all. So always remember that. If you want to be first, you really desire, if it's conditional on this, that you're going to have to be last. Try it. Put God to the test. Then put God to the test. You say, well, that's in the church, not in the world. Yeah. Put God to the test. See how it goes. It's conditional. If you have a desire for this, put this to the test. The same shall be last of all and servant of all. All right, so then he does this illustration, and he took a child and set him in the midst of them. And when he had taken him in his arms, he said unto them. So he does this. He wants to teach them. Teaching is getting one thought, his thought, to be your thought. So our 8th one is the conveyance. He wants to convey, how am I going to teach this? How am I going to instruct this group in how to do this so that they will get it? The conveyance. He doesn't do it with words, but he does it by works. He doesn't speak, but he does it by showing. He takes a child and sets him in the midst of them. And so he's going to convey how you become the least. How is this to become the greatest? And so we always, now you can argue all this stuff, but what did he say of Nathanael? He said of Nathanael, in him is what?
No guile.
No guile, like a child. A child is a child a sinner? Yes, we know a child's a sinner. You say a child's a little brat. And man, you know a kid's a little brat because you let him be a brat. Because you let him be a brat. If some brat wants to line up with me and I have the authority, I'll end the bratness in 5 minutes, man. So our next point is the conduct of a child. They're just totally innocent. In them is no guile. They're the most innocent little things. They don't know right from wrong. They don't know their left from their right. They just don't know. They're not out to get you. Those thoughts don't even come in their mind. You say, and I've heard it says that Esther is jealous of Elizabeth. You know, let's say she experienced it, does that sort of thing. It's not outlandish for that to happen. But he's using this child as an example. There's no guile, just a total innocent lump of clay there. No big goal no big goal in mind. There's the conduct. Verse 36 again. And that is the conquest of a child. There is none. He doesn't want to be head honcho. You say, well, a child fights for his toys and takes them away. But there's no big conquest to be the number one in the group. No big conquest of that. The conquest of a child. Verse 37. Whosoever shall receive one of such children in my name receiveth me. And whosoever shall receive me receiveth not me, but him that sent me. So this is what it's kind of like our conclusion here, and that's not one of the words. He says that you receive this child in my name. All right, he's got the authority there. And so our last point is, you do this. He's doing this this is the confidence he has that this is going to work. The confidence, this will and does work. You fight for the bottom and not for the top. You'll end up being top dog. I'm trying to think of an illustration right now. In Moby Dick, just before they all die, there were two crews. Yeah, we have to say. I didn't say that on purpose. It just came out that way. There were two crews. That's an inside landscaper's joke. There were two crews. If you remember in the movie, this is the one, I don't know if they ever did a remake. I'm talking about, what's the main character? The actor. I can't think of his name. Gregory Peck. They're rowing on Gregory. He's on board. He's on board. Oh, he may be on one of the. Oh, in the last one, he's on one of the. There might be three of these boats. Three of the boats out. There's a chief for the boat. There's a captain or some kind of a foreman on the boat. There's a mate. Okay, we'll call him the mate. There's a mate on the boat that's in charge. The one is driving him, almost with whips. Get moving, let pull, laddie, pull, go, here you lazy lout. And the other one, do you remember what the other mate was doing? Did anybody remember? It's a long movie, man. It's probably pretty boring.
Singing?
No, he's not singing. He's saying, pull, lads. Pull now. Slow and easy. Keep going. You know, his whole attitude was different. They both make it to the whale. Right? The one that was driving them and the one that was just coaxing them. They both make it to the whale, to their death. You know, they make it to the whale to throw the harpoons. So a lot has to do with the way that you present yourself. So if you do this in the name of Jesus, in the confidence in my name, Jesus said, you do it in my name, by my authority, that this method will work. It will work. His method, his way. That's number 11, the confidence. Our last point. This is a tough one. There's no, we ran out of verses. Are you convinced? The convincing. See, I could have preached this morning and, you know, it goes in one ear and right out the other. And hopefully somebody was convinced. Like I said this morning, nobody coaxed me here. Nobody begged me here. No one paid me. No one gave me any promises. Nobody, all I know is I needed Jesus. And he saved my soul. And going after carnal things is not worth it. And I was going to go after spiritual things. I was convinced. I was convinced. Hopefully, tonight, you'll actually take this lesson as he conveyed this with a little child and test it out. Do it in his name. The Lord knows all about it because he dwells in the house. He knows you have a conscience, and he speaks to that, and he wants to convey this lesson. And are you convinced? Those that are convinced will venture out into that, wherever the Lord leads him. Wherever the Lord leads him, if he's convinced, he'll venture out. Venture out on that path. and see where it leads you. Shake hands before leaving.